I thank my friend Chairman Westerman, and I thank my friend Secretary Haaland. It is wonderful to welcome you back here to the House Natural Resources Committee. Thank you for all your leadership. So important to provide that sustained funding for the Department of Interior for all the critical initiatives that you've got, helping protect our public lands, promoting domestic clean energy production, providing outdoor recreation, and responsibly managing our Western water resources, which are more important than ever. I want to start off by discussing the importance of reforming our federal oil and gas leasing program in order to promote the responsible stewardship of our nation's natural resources. Last year, we passed the Inflation Reduction Act, and it made historic and much-needed changes to the federal onshore oil and gas leasing program based on provisions of a bill that I had introduced, the Restoring Community Input and Public Protections in Oil and Gas Leasing Act. Specifically, the IRA ended non-competitive leasing for oil and gas sales, raising annual rental rates, and increasing the minimum bid for public lands. All those changes were very overdue, very common sense, and create more balance for bringing federal lands in line with what states and private landowners are already charging. And even after the IRA, states like Texas and Oklahoma still charge higher royalty rates on the state lands than are charged on the federal lands. And according to Taxpayers for Common Sense, this is not some left-wing group, it's not a right-wing group, it's Taxpayers for Common Sense. What we did in the IRA will not raise prices at the pump or consumer energy prices. I'll say that again, will not raise prices at the pump or consumer energy prices. We've got that independent analysis if anyone wants to see it. But it will raise hundreds of millions of dollars in additional revenue that could go towards all sorts of things, like infrastructure improvements that'll benefit everybody, not just a handful of oil and gas companies. So Secretary Haaland, with that as a background, from your perspective, how will the reforms from the IRA improve the return for taxpayers on our public lands?
Thank you so much for the question, and thank you for your work in this area. Of course, I don't have to say this. The climate crisis is upon us, and whatever we can do, every tool in the toolbox that we can use to move our clean energy forward, that is good for our land, it's good for our people, and we're happy to always work with you, Congressman, to restore the balance that we need to our public lands.
Thank you. And as a follow-up, I understand that BLM has drafted proposed rules to implement the changes in the IRA, specifically around oil and gas leasing. Those are currently at the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs. Just wanted to get the current status of those regulations and when we might be able to expect to see proposed rules published.
Thank you so much. The draft regulation is under review, and we hope to have the proposed rule published this summer. We're happy to stay in touch about that.
Excellent. Look forward to that. In addition to making clear about how the reforms will be implemented, the rulemaking represents an important opportunity for BLM to look to the future and further improve the onshore oil and gas leasing program. Will the regulations that are currently pending describe how the Department of the Interior intends to evaluate and adjust the royalty rate, rental rate, and minimum bid in the years after the 10-year period that's specified in the IRA?
Congressman, what I can say about this issue is that it's really important to ensure that Americans who these public lands belong to get a fair return for the resources that are on those lands. Every American owns every piece of public land, so it's important for us to make sure that we're doing the best we can for the American people.
Well, we certainly appreciate that, Secretary. Very grateful to your commitment, to the commitment of the professionals at Interior and BLM for responsibly implementing these common sense reforms that we made in the Inflation Reduction Act. And I urge the administration to expedite this regulatory process so that the IRA's reforms are durable, clear, and fully protective of the American taxpayer, and so that they promote the conservation of our public lands. And I thank the Secretary, and I'll yield back.